You're about to witness a story that will challenge everything you believe about love, revenge, and redemption. It's about a desperate young man, a wealthy widow with a dark secret, and a marriage that begins as calculated revenge but transforms into something neither of them expected. What happens on their wedding night will leave you speechless, and the truth behind this union will shock you to your core. Picture yourself watching a love story that begins with deception and ends with the most profound transformation you've ever witnessed. This is the tale of two souls, one drowning in poverty, the other drowning in the bitter waters of revenge. Meet Daniel Mitchell, 26 years old, whose young shoulders carry the weight of an entire family's survival. After his father's sudden death, Daniel became the sole provider for his household. His mother, Sarah, battles a devastating illness that has drained every penny of their savings. His younger sister, Emily, still attends high school, and her tuition, books, and expenses have become an unbearable burden. At just 26, life has aged Daniel beyond his years. Deep worry lines etch his face, and dark circles under his eyes tell the story of countless sleepless nights. He survives by studying relentlessly, working multiple jobs, and taking on any small task that pays. Every day, creditors pound on their door like vultures circling their prey. But this story isn't just about Daniel's struggle. There's another character whose pain runs even deeper, whose wounds have festered for decades, turning love into hatred and hope into vengeance. Her name is Isabella Hartwell, and she's been watching Daniel for far longer than he could ever imagine. Owen. This particular afternoon, Daniel sits in a rundown cafe, counting coins from his pocket to see if he has enough money for a single cup of tea. His hands shake slightly from exhaustion and hunger as he arranges the small change on the stained table. That's when he feels eyes upon him. You need to understand something about Isabella Hartwell. She's not just wealthy. She's a force of nature. In the business world, a woman who built an empire from ashes and heartbreak. At 81 years old, she commands respect and fear in equal measure. Her expensive silk dress, heavy gold jewelry, and commanding presence make her impossible to ignore. But what Daniel doesn't know, what he couldn't possibly comprehend, is that Isabella has been orchestrating this moment for over 2 decades. "You're Daniel Mitchell, aren't you?" Her voice cuts through the cafe's background noise like a blade. Daniel looks up, startled by the unexpected attention. "Yes, I am," he replies, his voice hoarse with fatigue. Isabella studies him with the intensity of a hawk examining its prey. Behind her calculating gaze, memories swirl like a storm. Memories of another young man who looked remarkably similar, who broke her heart and shattered her faith in love decades ago. "I know everything about your life, Daniel," she says, her words measured and deliberate. "Your mother's illness, your sister's education, the mounting debts that threaten to destroy your family. I know about the sleepless nights, the impossible choices, the weight of responsibility crushing your spirit." Daniel's blood runs cold. "Who are you? How do you know so much about me?" Isabella's smile is enigmatic, hiding decades of carefully planned revenge. "Someone who can change your destiny, but there's only one condition." She pauses, letting the moment build. "Marry me." The words hit Daniel like a physical blow. "What are you talking about?" "I want to marry you," Isabella repeats with absolute seriousness. "This isn't a joke, Daniel. It's a business proposition with life-changing benefits." But here's what Daniel doesn't understand yet. For Isabella, this isn't business at all. It's the culmination of 30 years of burning hatred, carefully nurtured and methodically planned. You see, Isabella Hartwell wasn't always a bitter woman consumed by thoughts of revenge. Once, she was a vibrant 25-year-old widow, vulnerable and desperate for love after losing her husband. And there was a man, a charming, handsome man who swept her off her feet, made her believe in love again, and then abandoned her when she needed him most. That man was Daniel's father. If you accept my proposal, Isabella continues, her voice steady despite the emotional storm raging inside her, I will personally ensure your mother receives the finest medical care money can buy. I'll take complete responsibility for your sister's education, the best schools, the best opportunities, and every debt your family owes. I'll pay it all. Daniel's mind reels. The offer seems too good to be true, too generous for a stranger. What do you want in return? He asks, though he dreads the answer. Just one thing. Marriage. We'll have a legal agreement. Even after we're married, you'll maintain your freedom. You can live your life however you choose. But there are certain conditions you'll need to accept. Her words sound reasonable, almost too easy. But Isabella's true intentions are far more complex than Daniel could ever imagine. As she speaks, Isabella's mind drifts back 30 years to another cafe, another desperate moment, another young man who looked just like Daniel. The pain of that betrayal still burns in her chest like acid, but now, finally, she has the opportunity to balance the scales. Daniel leaves the cafe without giving an answer, his head spinning with possibilities and fears. Isabella watches him go, her heart pounding with anticipation. After 3 decades of waiting, her revenge is finally within reach. But what Isabella doesn't realize, what she couldn't possibly foresee, is that revenge has a way of transforming the avenger as much as the target, and Daniel Mitchell is about to become either her greatest triumph or her ultimate downfall. Days pass like torture for Daniel. Creditors grow more aggressive, his mother's condition worsens, and his sister's school threatens to expel her for unpaid fees. The walls of poverty are closing in, and Isabella's offer begins to look less like a trap and more like salvation. What choice does he really have? Stay with us, because when Daniel finally makes his decision, it will set in motion a chain of events that will reveal dark family secrets, test the boundaries of love and forgiveness, and prove that sometimes the heart's capacity for redemption is far greater than its thirst for revenge. Finally, desperation wins. Daniel swallows his pride, seeks out Isabella, and agrees to her terms. The legal documents are signed in front of witnesses, and the marriage ceremony takes place with stark simplicity. No celebration, no joy, just 2 people entering into what appears to be a cold business arrangement. But for Isabella, this moment represents so much more. As she watches Daniel sign his name, her heart races with a mixture of triumph and unexpected nervousness. After 30 years of planning, she's finally achieved what she set out to do. Yet something feels different than she imagined it would. Daniel steps into Isabella's mansion for the first time, and his breath catches in his throat. This isn't just a home. It's a monument to wealth and power. Every surface gleams with luxury. Marble floors that reflect crystal chandeliers, ornate furniture that costs more than most people's houses, towering ceilings adorned with intricate artwork, and walls that seem to whisper secrets of the elite. But Isabella watches Daniel's reaction with complex emotions swirling in her chest. She remembers the first time his father entered a space like this. The same wide-eyed wonder, the same uncomfortable awareness of being out of place. The memory sends a sharp pain through her heart, reminding her why she's doing this. The mansions. Staff treat Daniel with cautious respect, but their behavior reveals the power dynamics at play. They've worked for Isabella for years, and they understand that she's not someone to cross. When the beautiful young maids speak to Daniel, they keep their words brief and formal, as if afraid that any familiarity might displease their formidable employer. Isabella notices everything. She sees how Daniel struggles to find his place in this world of opulence, how he moves carefully through rooms filled with priceless artifacts, how he sleeps in a guest room that's larger than his family's entire previous home. and watching him navigate this new reality awakened something unexpected in her. Not just satisfaction at her successful manipulation, but genuine concern for his comfort. As night falls over the mansion, an eerie silence settles over the vast halls. Daniel discovers something that sends chills down his spine. There's a heavy, imposing door on the second floor that remains permanently locked. The door is reinforced with multiple locks and is constantly monitored. When Daniel asks about it, the staff immediately become evasive. "What's behind that door?" he asks one of the housekeepers. "I'm sorry, sir, but that area is strictly off-limits," comes the nervous reply. The mystery gnaws at Daniel's mind. What could Isabella be hiding that requires such security? Meanwhile, Isabella wrestles with her own internal conflicts. The relationship between her and Daniel exists, but there's no emotional connection yet. She finds herself wanting Daniel to come to her room voluntarily, not through coercion or obligation. Despite her original plans for revenge, she discovers that she genuinely cares about earning his respect and affection. Isabella spends her days managing her business empire, but her thoughts constantly return to Daniel. When they speak, their conversations are brief and formal, polite inquiries about each other's well-being, but nothing deeper. They share meals at her grand dining table, but the distance between them feels as vast as the mansion itself. Neither attempts to learn about the other's family or personal history. It's as if they exist in completely separate worlds that happen to intersect at designated times. But Isabella's feelings are more complicated than her plan anticipated. She finds herself genuinely attracted to Daniel's character, his integrity, his dedication to his family, his quiet strength in the face of adversity. These weren't qualities she expected to admire. They were supposed to be weaknesses she could exploit. One evening, Daniel notices light coming from Isabella's private quarters in the central part of the mansion. This is her sanctuary, a place where no one else is permitted to enter. Isabella has been hoping, night after night, that Daniel might find the courage to come to her, but he's maintained his respectful distance. The truth is, Isabella's feelings terrify her. She spent 30 years nursing her hatred, planning her revenge, building walls around her heart. But Daniel's presence in her home, his quiet dignity in accepting this unusual arrangement, his genuine gratitude for her help with his family, it's all beginning to crack the foundation of her carefully constructed bitterness. Daniel tries to approach the locked room again, driven by curiosity about its contents. But, once more, he's intercepted by staff members who politely but firmly redirect him. "Why is that room forbidden?" Daniel asks, his frustration growing, but no one will give him a straight answer. The mystery deepens, and Daniel begins to suspect that whatever Isabella is hiding is directly connected to her motivations for this marriage. One night, Daniel decides he can't avoid the truth any longer. He approaches Isabella's door and listens carefully. He can hear her voice. She's speaking to someone, and the tone of her conversation makes his heart race with anxiety. Isabella sits alone in her room, but she's not speaking to another person. She's talking to a photograph, a picture of Daniel's father from 30 years ago. Her voice wavers between anger and heartbreak as she addresses the image. "I told you I would make you pay for what you did to me," she whispers to the photograph. "Your son is here now and he'll never be able to leave me the way you did." But her voice breaks slightly. "But he's nothing like you. He's kind, respectful, genuine. He's everything you pretended to be but never were. And now I don't know if I'm punishing him or falling in love with him." Daniel hears fragments of this conversation through the door, and his blood runs cold. Something about his father, something about punishment, something about never being able to leave. The pieces of a terrible puzzle begin forming in his mind. Isabella, unaware that she's being overheard, continues her tormented monologue to the photograph. "I was 25 when you destroyed me. 25 and so naive, so ready to believe. In love again after losing my husband. You made me feel alive, made me believe I had a future filled with happiness, and then you took it all away when I needed you most." Tears stream down her weathered face as decades of suppressed pain pour out. "But your son, he's changing everything." He looks at me with respect, not calculation. He treats me with dignity, not manipulation. He's making me remember what it felt like to hope for love instead of planning for revenge. Daniel's heart pounds as he realizes the magnitude of what he stumbled into. This marriage isn't a business arrangement. It's an elaborate trap designed to punish him for his father's sins. But he also hears something else in Isabella's voice: genuine conflict, real emotion, the sound of a woman questioning everything she thought she wanted. As Daniel quietly retreats from the door, he faces an impossible choice. Should he confront Isabella about what he's learned? Should he flee before her plans can unfold further? Or should he try to understand the pain that drove her to such extreme measures? What Daniel doesn't realize is that Isabella is asking herself the same questions. Her carefully laid plans for revenge are crumbling under the weight of unexpected feelings, and she's beginning to wonder if she's trapped herself as effectively as she intended to trap him. The mansion holds its secrets close, but the walls between two wounded hearts are beginning to crack. What happens next will determine whether this story ends in the destruction Isabella originally planned, or in the redemption neither of them saw coming. Stay with us, because the truth about Daniel's father and Isabella's past is about to explode into the open, and what Daniel does with that knowledge will surprise you beyond belief. 7 days pass in this strange dance of distance and hidden desires. Isabella grows more restless with each passing night, while Daniel becomes increasingly determined to uncover the truth. The mansion feels like a beautiful prison where both inhabitants are trapped by secrets and unspoken longings. Isabella's internal struggle intensifies with each day. She watches Daniel from afar as he adapts to his new surroundings with grace and humility. When he speaks to the staff, he treats them with genuine kindness rather than the condescending manner she's accustomed to seeing from wealthy men. When he calls to check on his mother and sister, his voice fills with such tender concern that Isabella finds herself eavesdropping, moved by his devotion to family. These observations weren't part of her plan. She expected to find the same selfishness and opportunism that his father displayed. Instead, she's discovering a man whose character challenges everything she believed about the Mitchell family. Daniel, meanwhile, grows more courageous in his investigation. He befriends Sophia, Isabella's personal maid, a beautiful 23-year-old woman who's worked in the mansion for several years. Sophia is the only staff member allowed unrestricted access to Isabella's private quarters, making her Daniel's best hope for answers. "Sophia," Daniel approaches her carefully one afternoon, "I need to speak with my wife about something important. Could you ask her if she'd be willing to see me tonight?" Sophia's eyes widen with surprise and barely contained excitement. In all her years serving Isabella, she's never seen her employer wait for anyone with such anticipation. She's witnessed Isabella's loneliness, her late-night pacing, her wistful glances toward Daniel's quarters. "Of course, sir. I'll speak with Mrs. Hartwell immediately." When Sophia delivers Daniel's request, Isabella's carefully controlled composure crumbles. Her hands tremble as she touches her face, and for a moment she looks like the vulnerable young woman she once was rather than the formidable businesswoman she's become. "He wants to see me?" Isabella whispers as if she can't quite believe it. "Yes, ma'am. He said it was important." Isabella's heart races with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. She's been dreading and longing for this moment in equal measure. "Tell him. Tell him yes. Tell him to come after 9 o'clock. As evening approaches, Isabella transforms herself with the care of a woman preparing for the most important night of her life. She chooses an elegant dress that flatters her figure, applies perfume that carries hints of roses and jasmine, and arranges her silver hair in a style that somehow makes her look decades younger. But beneath all this preparation lies a deeper transformation that Isabella herself doesn't fully understand. The bitter, vengeful woman who orchestrated this marriage is being replaced by someone softer, more vulnerable, more hopeful. When Daniel knocks on her door at precisely 9 o'clock, Isabella opens it with a smile that takes his breath away. The harsh lines of anger and resentment that usually mark her features have softened into something approaching radiance. Daniel steps into her private sanctuary, and his planned interrogation about family secrets suddenly seems less urgent than the magnetic pull he feels toward this enigmatic woman. The room is bathed in soft candlelight, filled with the fragrance of fresh flowers, and Isabella looks nothing like the calculating businesswoman who proposed their arrangement. "Isabella," Daniel says, his voice thick with surprise, You look like a woman half your age. How is that possible?" Isabella's smile deepens and her eyes sparkle with emotion she's kept hidden for decades. There's no age limit on love, Daniel. When a woman truly loves with her whole heart, her soul becomes young again. She moves closer to him, her movements graceful and confident. "I didn't just make you heir to my wealth and this mansion. I made you the owner of my heart." The room fills with an electricity that neither of them expected. Isabella's transformation isn't just physical, it's spiritual. Years of bitterness are melting away under the warmth of feelings she thought she'd lost forever. "The moisture you see in my eyes," Isabella continues, her voice barely above a whisper, "comes from years of waiting for this moment. I lost so much time to anger and hurt. My youth is gone. Other relationships never materialized. But my heart still beats with the same passion it did when I was 25. Daniel takes her hand, and the contact sends shockwaves through both of them. Isabella's skin is soft despite her age, and her fingers intertwine with his as if they were made to fit together. "Isabella, please forgive me," Daniel says, his original suspicions temporarily forgotten. "I know I've kept my distance since our marriage, but tonight, standing here with you, everything feels different. You're absolutely beautiful." Isabella slowly rests her head against his shoulder, and in that gesture, Daniel sees not the powerful businesswoman who controls millions, but a woman who's been desperately lonely for far too long. When a woman is called beloved by her man, Isabella whispers, she becomes his not because of age but because of the moment. "Live in this moment with me, Daniel. Let me give you the kind of love that no one else ever has." Daniel looks into her eyes and sees depths he never imagined. Pain, hope, desire, and something that looks remarkably like genuine love. He kisses her forehead gently, and the tenderness of the gesture brings tears to Isabella's eyes. "This heartbeat," Daniel says, placing Isabella's hand against his chest, "belongs to you now. As long as it continues, I'll be yours." Isabella's eyes shine with an emotion that transcends age and circumstance. This isn't the calculated seduction she planned. It's something real and transformative that's happening to both of them. "I've only taken 2 deep breaths in my entire life," Isabella confesses, pressing her forehead against his chest. "One was when you agreed to be my husband, and the other is now, when you're calling me yours." Daniel strokes her hair slowly, marveling at how soft and alive it feels beneath his fingers. "I pledge my love to every strand of your hair," he murmurs. "There's an innocence in your eyes that I've only seen in first love." Their connection deepens until even their breathing synchronizes. The barriers between them, age, circumstance, hidden motives, seem to dissolve in the face of this unexpected intimacy. "Every day of my life from now on means only you," Daniel whispers. "I was completely incomplete without you. I understand that now." That night, neither of them makes grand promises or declarations because their eyes communicate everything that words cannot express. The room becomes more than just a physical space. It transforms into the birthplace of their love story. Isabella realizes with both joy and terror that her plan for revenge has backfired spectacularly. Instead of trapping Daniel in a loveless marriage, she's fallen completely and irrevocably in love with him. And the most shocking part is that he seems to be falling in love with her too. As dawn approaches, the mansion staff whisper among themselves about the transformation they've witnessed. "The lady looks young again," they murmur, "and the master has finally found his heart." But Daniel's curiosity about the locked room hasn't disappeared. It's simply been temporarily overshadowed by these new feelings. And Isabella knows that eventually the truth about her past and her original motives will surface. The question that haunts both of them as they lie in each other's arms is whether the love they've discovered is strong enough to survive the revelation of Isabella's deception. Stay with us, because when Daniel finally uncovers the truth about his father and Isabella's decades-old pain, both of their worlds will be shattered and rebuilt in ways that will test the very foundations of love, forgiveness, and redemption. Days pass in a haze of newfound love and lingering mystery. Daniel and Isabella's relationship deepens with each stolen moment, but the locked room continues to haunt Daniel's thoughts. He's fallen in love with Isabella, but he knows that secrets have a way of destroying even the strongest bonds. Isabella, meanwhile, lives in constant fear that her deception will be discovered. Every loving word from Daniel feels like both a gift and a guilty burden. She's achieved what she thought was impossible. She's genuinely fallen in love and been loved in return. But the foundation of their relationship is built on lies, and she knows that eventually the truth will surface. The revelation comes on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon when Daniel's curiosity finally overcomes his caution. The door to the forbidden room stands slightly ajar, perhaps left open accidentally by a careless staff member, or perhaps fate itself has decided it's time for secrets to emerge. Daniel's heart pounds as he approaches, knowing that what he finds inside will change everything. The room is a shrine to the past. Antique furniture, oil paintings covering the walls, and a heavy wooden desk in the corner where numerous files are meticulously organized. But Daniel's attention is immediately drawn to the desk where a thick, yellowed envelope sits, its corners worn from repeated handling. With trembling fingers, Daniel opens the envelope and finds a photograph that stops his heart. There, smiling at the camera, are his father, Robert Mitchell, and a much younger Isabella, maybe 25 years old. They're standing close together, her hand resting on his arm, both looking radiantly happy. His father looks exactly as Daniel remembers him from old family photos, but Isabella looks like a completely different person. Gone are the hard lines of experience and pain. In their place is the face of a young woman glowing with love and hope. "So, you've finally seen everything." Daniel spins around to find Isabella, standing in the doorway. There's no surprise or fear in her expression, only a weary resignation, as if she's been expecting this moment for weeks. Daniel holds up the photograph with shaking hands. This marriage, it was never a business arrangement, was it? It was revenge. Isabella steps into the room, closing the door behind her. For a moment, she looks every one of her 81 years, the weight of her deception aging her before Daniel's eyes. "You've proven yourself more perceptive than I anticipated, Daniel. I didn't think you'd discover the truth so quickly. You used my desperation against me." Daniel's voice breaks with hurt and betrayal. "I was just a pawn in your game to get back at my father." Isabella's response surprises him with its raw honesty. "You're right, but now that you know everything, listen to my side of the story." She moves to the window, gazing out at the gardens where she and Robert once walked together. Her voice becomes softer, more vulnerable than Daniel has ever heard it. "I loved your father with every fiber of my being. He was my first love after becoming a widow, and I thought he would be my last. I was 25 when my husband died, leaving me alone and vulnerable. Your father appeared in my life like a savior." Isabella turns back to Daniel, and he sees, tears gathering in her eyes. something he thought impossible from this strong, controlled woman. I believed it was true love. He supported me through my grief, made me feel alive again, gave me hope for a future filled with happiness. When I spoke of marriage, of building a life together, he rejected me completely. That same day, I swore an oath that would consume the next 30 years of my life. Her voice grows stronger, more determined. If I couldn't have him, then I would have his bloodline. When I saw you as a child, I decided you would be my path to justice. I've been watching you, planning this marriage, orchestrating every detail of your downfall. Daniel feels sick as the magnitude of her manipulation becomes clear. So everything was a lie. The love, the intimacy, the connection I thought we shared. No. Isabella's voice cracks with emotion. That's where you're wrong, Daniel. You accomplished something your father never could. You showed me respect, treated me with genuine kindness, saw me as a complete person rather than just a means to an end. She approaches him slowly, her hands reaching out as if to touch his face, then falling back to her sides. Your humanity melted my hatred. Your love imprisoned me more effectively than any revenge I could have devised. I planned to trap you, Daniel, but instead, I became your willing captive. The room falls silent except for the sound of Isabella's quiet sobbing, perhaps the first tears she's shed in decades. Daniel stares at the woman before him, seeing her clearly for the first time. Not the powerful businesswoman, not the calculating manipulator, but a wounded soul who spent 30 years nurturing pain until it consumed her life. You wanted to imprison me, Daniel says, his voice gentler than Isabella expected, but you imprisoned yourself in hatred for 3 decades. Your revenge destroyed you, Isabella. But what I see in your eyes now isn't hatred anymore. It's love. Daniel takes Isabella's wrist gently, drawing her against his chest. I forgive you, because your heart is clean now, and I understand the pain that drove you to this. Isabella breaks down completely, sobbing against his chest. Even if death comes for me tomorrow, I won't regret a single moment of loving you. You've given me something I thought was lost forever, the ability to feel genuine love instead of consuming hatred. They hold each other in that room filled with the ghosts of the past, both understanding that their relationship will never be the same, but neither wanting to let go of what they've found together. 6 months later, Isabella's health begins to decline rapidly. The stress of carrying 30 years of hatred, combined with her advanced age, has taken its toll. Within weeks, she passes away peacefully in her sleep, but not before having one final conversation with Daniel. I need you to know, she whispers on her last night, that loving you was the only pure thing I did in 30 years of bitterness. You saved my soul, Daniel. I just hope you can forgive me for taking so long to find it. At Isabella's funeral, Daniel speaks only a few words, but they carry the weight of their entire story. I forgive you, Isabella, and I hope you can forgive me for not seeing your pain sooner. But this story doesn't end with Isabella's death. In the weeks that follow, Daniel grows closer to Sophia, the devoted maid who witnessed their love story unfold. She had always admired Daniel's character, and her own feelings, suppressed out of respect for Isabella, begin to emerge. Sophia is everything Isabella wasn't. Young, unburdened by the past, full of hope for the future. But she's also learned about love from watching Isabella's transformation. She understands that real love requires patience, respect, and the courage to be vulnerable. Their relationship develops slowly, built on mutual understanding rather than desperate need or calculated revenge. When Daniel proposes to Sophia, it's with the wisdom gained from his experience with Isabella. Love is most powerful when it's freely given and received without conditions. Daniel and Sophia's wedding fills the mansion with joy and laughter for the first time in decades. His mother and sister come to live with them, bringing the warmth of family to rooms that had echoed with loneliness for too long. Where Isabella's incomplete love once resonated through empty halls, now Sophia's laughter and Daniel's peaceful contentment create a harmony that feels like home. But Daniel never forgets Isabella or the lessons she taught him. He understands now that love and hatred are often separated by the thinnest of lines, and that redemption is possible even for hearts that have been hardened by decades of pain. Isabella's story serves as a powerful reminder that revenge may seem satisfying in theory, but it ultimately imprisons the seeker as much as the target. The woman who spent 30 years planning to destroy Daniel's happiness instead discovered that love has the power to transform even the most wounded souls. Sometimes the person we set out to hurt becomes the person who saves us from ourselves. And sometimes the greatest victory isn't in getting revenge, but in finding the courage to forgive, both others and ourselves. Daniel's forgiveness didn't just free Isabella from her burden of hatred, it freed him from the cycle of pain that could have consumed his own future. In choosing compassion over condemnation, he proved that love truly is the most powerful force in the human experience. This story teaches us that truth, loyalty, and genuine love of the heart are the greatest powers we possess. Often, when we set out to cause pain for others, we end up falling into the very trap we've set. But if there's respect, understanding, and authentic emotion in our relationships, even the deepest wounds can heal. Isabella's revenge became her redemption, and Daniel's forgiveness became his greatest strength. In the end, they both discovered that some of life's most profound lessons come not from getting what we think we want, but from learning to want what we actually need: connection, understanding, and the courage to love despite the risk of being hurt. The end of this story of love, revenge, and redemption moved you. Remember that each day offers opportunities to choose forgiveness over bitterness, love over hatred, and compassion over revenge. The question isn't whether someone has hurt you, it's whether you'll allow that hurt to define your future. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is exactly what Daniel did. Choose to see the wounded soul behind the harmful actions and offer healing instead of more pain.